I have been asked very often lately the question of Veerle, what books do you read? And I've never answered those questions because that tells a lot about me, and I don't like to talk that much about me. But I can understand why people ask that question. First of all, I'm not showing you the books to show you my wisdom, because I don't think wisdom is in the books, or maybe some of it. I'm just shooting here the videos because it's the lightning, because of the lightning. But yes, I do like to read, and lots of people noticed actually. And so I'm going to answer that question. What do I read? And there are so many people, also clients, that say to me that apparently they have a feeling that I know a bit of everything. And where do you get that broad perspective? Well, one of them, of course, one way is this. And but more important ways is, of course, your own experience and the experience of the connections of people that you are with or that are close to you, or even your connections with people you work with or with friends or whatever. And also maybe a former lives, who knows. And so yes, and once a professor asked me that question as well. He said it was in Antwerp, and it was a priest, a very old priest, and he was so it was examinations orally, and he said instead of I read all the books that I needed to read. It was of anthropology, very interesting course, by the way. But he said to me, and he was a very mysterious guy. He liked to be very mysterious, I think, because he did a lot of effort by watching like this, tell me what you read, and I tell you who you are. And that kind of question I'm trying to, and he was right, because if you tell what you read about, it says a lot about who you are. So let's have a look. So this video will be about, to answer the question, why and where do I get the information that I'm, it's obviously not always astrology that I'm talking about. And certainly as an astrologer, you can be analytical and all of that, but I always want to help people out. They have to do their own path, of course, but, helping them, giving them a hand has not only to do with astrology. And books can give you a hand, but it's not, as I already said, it's not always 100% helping. So that's one thing I want to do here. And secondly, what am I reading at the moment? This is a good question, isn't it? What am I reading at the moment? And Jupiter is in Virgo, and it is related to that always. Why? Because Jupiter is my ruler in the chart, and wherever Jupiter is, it's like the things that I read are actually more to do with the sign it is in. So what I read, well, everything. I mean, absolutely everything. From art, you could say, art books like what is there? Jugendstil or Art Nouveau, or how do they call that? Art Nouveau. It's very difficult if you speak English to speak French at the same time. And what else? Lots of books about biographies. I love to read biographies about difficult personalities. Of course, everyone is difficult in their particular way. But from ballet dancers like Josie Kirkland, I'm reading biography at the moment as well. So that's one. Where there is a bit of intensity there, where there is a bit of drama there. And the drama of this lady was that she was heavily on cocaine addicted, and when she was doing her periods, like, the thing that is in the nose went out of it. Things like that. I know it's sick, isn't it, that you read this? I mean, I would think that if I were you. But anyway, what else? A lot of books here. I Actually, if you would ask me what are the item that I read the most, it's, believe it or not, it's economy and politics. It's what I studied. I studied in in another life, it seems. I studied applied economics, and it was actually to understand the world. To understand and to find the truth. That is always a basic thing in my books that I read, from a biography to an economical book to literature. I want to know the truth. I want to know, and I want to have realness in those books, and raw realness. So yes, I have read a lot of economical books, from international economy up until a good book actually was From Yalta to Malta, and you see that I like the book. Look, From Yalta to Malta, Political History of Europe. These things, again, it's very strange maybe to be an astrologer. There are like, when I'm amongst new people or a reception or whatever, and I talk, and they ask me, oh, what did you study? What do you do? And I studied applied economics, and a lot of people, oh, yeah, okay. And then I say, and I'm an astrologer, it's like the record goes like, it's like, you know, the needle of the record goes, like, certainly when you're amongst very real, rational people, and then you tell them that you're an astrologer, they look at you, and then they say, why, where did it go wrong, and things like that. So, but definitely, that's the Virgo side of me, I suppose. I have a lot of planets in Virgo, and Virgo is the sign of economy, and Jupiter is in Virgo at the moment. So, yes, but of course, Jupiter, which is my ruler, also shows that I'm very interested in not only the political, economical side of life, but also, you know, astrology, but also I Ching. You can find here also books about quantum physics, which I don't understand, and I wish one day I will. Yes, the mystery of life and the truth about it, and you know, universes and all of that. Very interested in it. Don't always get it though. Literature. My favorite Dutch writer has passed away, and his name was Joost Zwagerman, and it's very rare that I read a lot of books of the same writer, and he was so passionate about art, and he could really inspire others, and he was also very interested in economy, politics, and you know, in the world, let's say, and in finding that truth. He has a combination in his chart of Scorpio and Sagittarius, which I have as well, and I think that's a bit the combination of wanting to know the truth, but also in a very philosophical way. And it's a shame that he has passed away. He has taken his life, actually, and it's a shame, but that's the downside of going so deep, too deep probably. But anyway, what else? Yes, and what else? Oh, French books. I like Françoise Sagan. Françoise Sagan, hang on there. I need to show this to you. Bonjour Tristesse, or Bonjour Tristesse, and what else? Dans un mois, dans un an, La Camade et tout ça. French books, I don't know why. Is it the language? But I like in the French book, it's a bit more easygoing. It's a bit more of the, I'm not going to say poetry, but it's a bit more like, sometimes we need that. You know, I read a lot of serious book at times, and sometimes I read like I'm in a different plane, you could say. The more, well, French, I don't know. I think it's the language. It sounds more romantic. I don't know. But it's a lot about, you know, the why do I exist and things like that, and where la lassitude, and I can't translate it at the moment, but I like to read every now and then a French book. German books is reality. Yeah, Kafka, Der Prozess, and all of that. I love to read that every once in a while as well. English books, yes, well, a lot when it's about astrology, but not at the moment, actually. English books, I do have a favorite one, and it's a child's book. It's of R.L. Stevenson. I really don't know where he's coming from. But I love this bits of poetry. I think it's the only poetry that I have here, but I really, really love it. So, and literature, of course, about different cultures, about relationships, about problems, about the depths of life, and about truth. Now, what am I reading at the moment? Sometimes it's very synchronical, or how do you call that? I'm going to show you here next the books that I'm reading at the moment. I'm reading at the moment, I think 3 or 4 books. And it's not always like that. It's when my 3rd house or 9th house is activated. These are the houses of the intellect, the houses of the mind. And normally I read a lot of books when I have a lot of traffic going on there with the planets. And at this time is Jupiter in Virgo. So what I read actually is it has from the biography that I read of what's his name, the football player. I've got this book actually. I would never have bought it myself. I've got this book from a Dutch friend of mine, and I said, why do I need this book here of an ex-football player who's I'm not interested in football at all. But it's about Wim Kieft, and he writes it. The book is, I don't know if it's translated in English, I think, but I'm not quite sure. Should have checked that, I know, but I just want to tell what I read. And it is about addictions. It is about alcohol addiction, and I think it was cocaine or something else. Well, it is so raw, it is so real, and it is so powerful because what he does to overcome that, and how it humbles him, and how difficult it is, how easy it is to judge, but how difficult it is to control. And I work a lot with clients who have addictions, not necessarily alcohol, but it has certainly given me, if people say, hey, where do you get that understanding from? Well, of course, of the people around me. I do know people who are addicted, and I do know what that can do with someone or their environment. But a book like this also shows it from a very raw, real perspective. And it has really given me a lot of insights in the illness itself, but it also has given me insight in how important it is to do the day-to-day things, which is again Jupiter in Virgo, to spend time on the day-to-day things and to start small. And then, Jupiter is a very expansive planet, and Virgo is very detailed, and that's what that book was all about as well. It was about all the books that I'm reading at this moment. Key thing is isolation versus connection. In all those books, a key thing is isolation, feeling separate, whether it is through an addiction or on a collective level, it doesn't matter, and going towards connection again. All these books are so tell me who you are, that question of that professor. It is true, it's about what I'm dealing with at the moment as well, on several levels, you could say, in my life. It's very important now to know, what is isolation and what is connection, and how is that, how can we overcome that without too much of an effort, without too much of control. I mean, not effort, but control. So, and that book, that man, when you look at his horoscope, he has a whole bunch of planets in Scorpio, like the Sun and Venus and Mercury, all sandwiched by Neptune. So very deep person, very sensitive person, but he at the same time has Mars opposite Saturn, which is a very harsh aspect. So in reading those books about these people and putting a bit of astrology there, I try to understand why people are the way they are, and and I recognize it as well. I recognize a lot when I see people with clients, you know, quite often it has, addictions, for instance, has to do with Neptune. Quite often it has to do with an afflicted Mars as well. So that's how I you know, that information comes to me. Another book, 2 books actually, who are very, very much, it's like those 2 guys have been in a cafe or something, because it's so, they are writers more on a collective level. They are both Pisceans. One is a psychiatrist, a Belgian psychiatrist called Dirk De Wachter, and the other one is a fellow astrologer, David Cammegh, who has written his new book, God makes his move. And it's like these 2 know each other, because it's about that isolation versus connectedness, I think, in my humble opinion. Of course, everyone, because these books are very on the level of the collective, you know, which is typical for Pisceans, I think. They are the visionaries, and they see how the collective works. They have that sense of it. And they both write about the same things, each in its own way. But they are both very much independent thinkers, which I like a lot in writers. These are writers that are a bit avant la lettre. I can't explain what that means, but avant la lettre, being a bit knowing in advance what's going to happen on a collective level. The other one, Dirk De Wachter, is a Belgian psychiatrist, but he's not like all his other colleagues promoting pills and all of that. He goes on a contradictory level, you could say, with his fellow colleagues, and it's the level of we need to look at other things as well. And his book is called Borderline Times. Again, I don't know if it's translated or not, but his book is about. And I thought actually I thought it was going to explain me something about borderline. I had a few clients that were saying to me, I have borderline, and I had an idea of what that was, but my goodness me, I didn't know in detail. So I thought, let's buy a book about borderline, but it was about the disease, but on a social level. So in other words, Dirk De Wachter describes that the society in itself, the collectiveness, is having the disease of borderline. And how he works in his book is very interesting, because he talks about all the characteristics of a borderline. And you find those items, you find them back in the book of David Cammegh, and how he talks about his research that he's doing. Again, Jupiter in Virgo, it's about very worldly things, but quite into detail. It's not about, you know, I can't look it up, or he's just saying something. No, it's a very detailed book, and it's about the same things. So for instance, if Dirk De Wachter is saying, look, this is a proof that society has the borderline disease, is because point 1, we all have, or we have more, identity crises. People don't know who they are. Are they a man? Are they a woman? Are they like this? Are they like that? You find that back as well in the book of David Cammegh. It's about, you know, the identity of the roles. What else? Dirk De Wachter, he talks about the isolation, the disconnection that we have, the disconnection that we have with people, the disconnection that we have with God, the disconnection that we have by so both writers are describing that. What else? What else? And many more. So it's a lot about having, when you look at the collective level and seeing things that are happening in the world now with with a lot of things. I don't want to go into the detail, but with a lot of things, and we feel very disconnected. We feel as if we are cut off, and that's exactly what's happening with borderline as well. And because of that, we can run away from relationships, we can run away from ourselves, we can run away from God, and we feel very vulnerable because of that. So this is written in those two books, and I'm very it was very interesting for me to read them at the same time. And I think it's if you are interested in these subjects, if you are interested in truth, if you are interested in reality, but if you are also in not only reality that it gets too real that you are getting depressed, because, you know, if you read too much, if you take every detail of these books, you are going to fall into a very, you know, you are going to feel not healthy anymore, because the reality can be very, very hard. But at the same time, there is optimism in the books. And the optimism is, and this is the Jupiter in the Virgo. The Virgo says, okay, we've got this problem. How are we going to fix it? How are we going to fix it? By doing very, very little things in every particular way. And certainly the book of David Cammegh also shows that how you can solve that. You know, he just gives some tools there and some explanations, and then you can do your own thing. You can do your own work, for instance. There are certainly some areas that I want to explore for me, just the areas that I find interesting, you know. And for other people, it would be something else. For other people, it will be, I don't know, life after death. And for other people, it will be, you know, the economical situation. It doesn't matter. Everyone can decide. So it's in that respect a very practical book as well, which I love because I'm a Virgo. So these are the books that I read. This is the kind of, you know, it's all quite serious, isn't it? So, but apart from the reading, after the reading, always go out there. Always do so. You know, that's also the Virgo thing, you know, get into the body. The body is as important as well, not only here. Yes, this was what I read, and very well done for the books that I'm reading now, especially for Wim Kieft, for being so courageous. This is about courage as well. So courageous to tell your story. Dirk De Wachter and David Cammegh for that tremendous work that they did, and we can benefit from that, absolutely. I hope I have given you some taste of grabbing that book there and having your own Jupiter in Virgo transits, which is the expansion, yes, the growth of knowledge, absolutely, but not using that as a means, not using that for wanting to control something. Wanting to control something, but you end with a phrase that the writer that just has passed away, Jules Zwageman, was talking about, because he also, when they asked him the question, why does he read so much, or why does he read, the same drive was the same as my drive, that was to control something. You know, for instance, you can have like a disease, like my dad, he had a stroke a long time ago, wanted to know everything about it. You know, it has such an impact on an emotional level. Like you can't walk anymore, you can't talk, you can't read anymore. And so you want to have control over that situation, and you read, and I read a lot of books about stroke and about the brain and about, I don't know what, but did it help me? Well, on an emotional level? You can't have the control. So I think what he was saying as well, that writer, he said, he made that same analogy with depression. He was reading a lot about depression. He was actually doing not workshops but conferences, talking about it to soothe other people, and he died from it himself. So what he also said was, you cannot get knowledge is not power. It's not, because it can strengthen you, yes, but if you use it as a tool to gain power, it gets negative. And I think that's an important message from him to you out there, and I think it really resonates. That's also, I used to read quite obsessively as well, But the reason I read now is to have more, the knowledge that comes to you, how it can make you a better person. Basically, it's. I know it sounds cheesy, but it is the truth. A better person, and also to have more understanding, but not in that obsessive way of I want to control it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your question, by the way, of many people who asked me what I read. And see you next time. Bye bye.